Coming up today in the Geekasaurus, we're going to check out the physics involved with dancing. Not really. We're going to check out the differences between Guild Wars 1 and Guild Wars 2. Let's get going. Hello and welcome to the Geekasaurus. Oh, my voice is completely shot. This is the differences between Guild Wars 1 and Guild Wars 2. I think this will be a multi-part series. First, we're going to have a look at character creation in Guild Wars 1 and 2. Guild Wars 2 is the upper left, Guild Wars 1 is the lower right. This is meant as sort of a primer for people that play Guild Wars 1 and are wondering what's the differences in Guild Wars 2. Now, of course, on the surface there's going to be graphical differences between the two games. Guild Wars 2 being a very modern MMO using a very high-end graphics engine. Guild Wars 1 being a lot older, about 8 years old. I'm using something called a rate stretch tool in Adobe Premiere Pro because the Guild Wars 2 character creation takes a long time. You get quite a few options that you can tweak. So I sped that one up, and Guild Wars 1 I slowed down so you could sort of see the same kind of things going on the screen at the same time. We're going to try to do this this way throughout the whole video, comparing between the two, so you might see me speed one up or slow one down. The gameplay is actually not that much different in speed, of course, but I have to speed them up or slow them down if I'm trying to show a particular item. We're going to talk about the graphics in sort of a generic view. I don't want to beat up Guild Wars 1 because it's obvious that Guild Wars 2 is newer, so I can't say, oh, the graphics are so much better. Of course they are. Guild Wars 1, the only race you could play was a human, so you got to pick different human races, I guess, or ethnicities. And so there were the prophecy ones, which were more of an English type of character. Then there was Nightfall, which was kind of African. And then there was factions, which was more of an Asian look. Now, in Guild Wars 2, you can play a human and you can tweak your character to look like any of these races. So they decided, instead of having separate expansions for each race or ethnicity, you could just do all of them within one. So I'm doing a human to human comparison here so that you can sort of get the same look between the two characters. As old as the original Guild Wars is, it still has a good sense of style and beauty. The characters are quite lovely looking, and even though it has a lot less polygons, they seem to pull it off quite well. Is one thing, but the main focus of each game is completely different at this point. We're going to talk about party size. Now, in Guild Wars 1, it started out with the best of intentions, I think, and it was supposed to be sort of your standard MMO. You would build a party of you and 5 of your friends or 5 people you picked up in a group, and then you would go out and kill stuff. Well, that kind of went out the window at some point. I don't know all of the history, and I don't know why or when that happened, but they decided, hey, let's have it to where you can hire henchmen. So you would bring in these guys, or friends, or whatever you found inside of a city. Like you'd find a healer henchman, or you would find a guy who was ranged attack, and a guy who was a warrior kind of tank style, and you would pick them up and put them into your party, and then you would go out and do your missions. So it turned from being kind of a social MMO into sort of an anti-social MMO because you really didn't need those people at all. And then eventually you could then find heroes, which were just these super-powered henchmen that you could always have with you at any time that you went out to do your missions, and you just did them almost completely by yourself. So at this point, why is it an MMO? Who knows? I'm sure there was some sort of reason behind it. There was enough people that weren't playing anymore that they said, hey, we have to let our players that are playing have a way to do these missions, because they decided not to lower the requirements for killing each mob. It still is pretty difficult even with heroes. So they decided to allow people to have parties that they could make themselves. Just add water. Currently, Guild Wars 2 does not have this problem, and I don't know if it'll have it in the future. We won't know that for sure, but I do know there are lots and lots of people playing. I'm running my character right now in Guild Wars 2, the upper left, through one of the WVW areas, and it's swarming with people. Swarming. I'm not joking. It's like there has to be 500 people running around here. It's just nuts. So for the time being, I don't see that being an issue with Guild Wars 2. So let's move on to something else to talk about. Oh wait! Before we do that, let's talk one more thing about Guild Wars 2 as far as parties go. Okay, So, Guild Wars 2, you can have a party made up of your friends, which is kind of common in most MMOs, but the cool thing is they can be on any server in any guild, and they can still be part of your party. Once they become your party member, they stay there forever. It's almost kind of like having your heroes, but instead of them being NPCs, they are real players. You can write to them at any time. You can say, hey pal, how you doing, whatever, you want to come play? And the scaling up or down, depending on which place you're doing, means that even if you are 10 levels above them, you can still find something to do where both of you will get XP, loot, and have a good time together. So that's really, really amazing, and that's a big plus for Guild Wars 2. Okay, now let's go on to cliffs and rocks. Ah, the dreaded rock. Okay, in Guild Wars 1, they kind of had these invisible walls everywhere. And the cliffs would keep you from stepping off a cliff, and you couldn't jump over a rock. And I know there was a jump emote, but it wasn't really jumping. You couldn't jump over things or go climbing up hills or anything like that. If they had this sort of invisible wall, you sort of felt like you were in a funnel. You were playing in a funnel. Guild Wars 2 doesn't have that. It's more similar to most MMOs where you can jump over things, climb up reasonable hills and cliffs, and jump down to your doom if you have to. I think that's all I have time for today, unfortunately. So this is going to be a multi-part series. I don't think I'll get to the next part until probably after release, but we will cover this some more in detail. There's a lot more things I did not include, so for those of you who are going to leave me comments that I forgot this, that, and this, go ahead, because I can use it in my next video. I will credit you and all that. So this is the new dances, and there are like 18,000 of these up on YouTube right now, so I decided I'm not even going to bother making a video for it. You guys can see it. So thanks a lot for watching, everybody. I will see you soon. Until next time, I say, see ya!